everybody, and welcome to this sadly last webinar of the project-based learning course in the Teacher Academy. Very warm welcome to those of you who have joined this webinar today. Seeing in the chat that you're coming from many different countries, only one person from Belgium, apart from me. My name is Nail Carrera, and I'm here in the Future Classroom Lab in European Schoolnet. I am one of the moderators of this course, along with my colleagues Benjamin Hurst, that I think he is around also in the chat, Katerina, Bart, and also Cornelia, which I think is also in the chat. So, as I've said, we're going to ask you to mute your microphone so that we don't hear any background noise. I will do the same with mine after I give Maria Jesus the presenters right. If you have any question, please post them in the chat and make sure you address this question to all participants so that everybody can see the question. And we will be collecting your questions and we'll ask them to Maria Jesus at the end. We have already been collecting some questions in the Padlet, so we will try to make a mix and trying to answer as many questions as possible. You're already sharing where you're coming from, so just for you to know, the presentation will be recorded. So if you have to leave, I don't know, maybe to go to the beach, since you are already on holidays, don't worry because the presentation will be recorded and you will see the presentation. I think it's in section 4.6 of the course. So by this time, most of you have already finished the course. You're saying goodbye, but we are very sad because the course is been wonderful and we didn't want it to finish, but unfortunately it's finishing. And we wanted to finish it by giving you the opportunity to learn a bit more about project-based learning. We all know that the role of the student is key when working with this kind of methodology. So we thought it would be really convenient and also interesting to have a last webinar on this topic with an expert on this topic, in this case Maria Jesus, and particularly focusing on the role of the students when working with PBL, with project-based learning, and of course based on real experience, which is the interesting thing of the webinar. So it's my pleasure to introduce you today to Maria Jesus Garcia San Martin. She's head of the Online Teacher Training and Social Networks Department at INTEF. Most of you have already heard about it. It is the National Institute for Educational Technologies and Teacher Training in the Spanish Ministry of Education. And she's also an online teacher training at the Virtual School by Castilla-La Mancha. Maria Jesus holds a master's degree as a teacher at University Rey Juan Carlos in Madrid, and over the last 30 years, she has been teaching English as a second language at different levels, both in private centers and state-run schools of languages. She has worked as a coordinator of educational projects and different courses, managed the national blog on ICT and foreign languages, and contributed to the Spanish state-run repository Wikididactica, Internet en el Aula and Agrega, which, for those who don't know, it's an educational open-source resource bank by the Spanish Ministry of Education. Above all, she still has somehow some time to contribute from time to time to different educational projects such as Terra en Conducta and the Observatory for Technological and Educational Innovation, ODITE, and also to write her own blog, which is, I post the address in the chat, so if you want to have a look, I highly recommend you to look at it. It's really worth it. So I definitely think Maria Jesus is the right person to guide us through this topic today. I hope the introduction is okay for you, Maria Jesus. If not, feel free to correct me or add anything you want.
Thank you very much. I feel a bit overwhelmed by the introduction, actually. Thank you very much.
Okay.
My pleasure being here with you this evening.
Thanks to you. Really big thank you for being here today. So the floor is yours, Maria Jesus. I will give you the presenters right now. It takes some time because we've got 84 people now, so very good, very good. And some more else joining. Okay, so you will be able to see the presenter ball now. Okay. So enjoy, everybody.
Permits are there.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nave. Right, I hope you can all hear me well. If not, just please let me know and we'll try to do what we can so you can hear me better. Now, what I'd like to introduce you to this afternoon in scorching hot Madrid is an experience that I've been carrying out with a team of university students. They are actually pre-service CLIL primary teachers, and I teach them a master's degree at University of Madrid, as Nair has previously said, um, about ICT and primary bilingual education. This experience that I'd like to share with you is aimed at accomplishing one goal, and the goal is to flip their role into a project-based lesson approach. But it is a bit further step what I take with them every year, because what I try to do is find e-students, as what I teach is mixed blended learning. I just see them twice a week, and the rest is all of online. So I try to find e-students in any other part of the world with the same interests such as my own students, and try to team them up, bring them together, because my students are interested in connected learning and teaching. So I try to set up an e-connection because I think e-connections are essential. You are going to find out why later on in the webinar. And they choose the topic, such as science, reading, writing, storytelling, school life, whatever they are interested in, podcasting, and so forth. And I try to bring them together, team them up, as I've said before, so that they know each other's needs and interests. And the goal for me as a teacher is to foster their beginning networked e-projects, but their own e-projects, okay? And that's why, if you have a look at the next slide, you see the school upside down. Because whenever I begin a school year, I always make sure that students understand that the project we are going to carry out for the 4 months we are going to be together, it's only a 4-month master's degree, what I teach. The project is their own project. It is not mine, it is theirs. And that is why I leave the project schedule and the project activities up to them. This might become a bit of chaos from the teacher's end. As when doing so, when leaving the learning in hands of the students without any apparent previous planning, planning itself becomes a difficult task. But I do assure you it is worth the effort from my point of view. Because when you do this, when you flip their role and they become the main characters of their own learning, you have to trust their talents, and they surprise you in the end. That's why in the second part of the slide, you see that I let my students be my champions, and I do invite you to let your students be your champions. Trust them, trust their talents. My students are pre-service teachers, so they are old enough in order to also let them be chaotic. That is true, okay? But I think one can try that out with any other age. I've tried it before with younger students, and if you are prepared for chaos, it works in the end. You will be surprised. That is added value to a project and to a project-based learning approach, in my opinion, because if the students feel the project is their own project, they are going to be more motivated, more involved, and that is, in the end, added value. So my lessons at the beginning always start with the same beginning of the year question, and that question is, are you up to the challenge? It is up to them to be up to the challenge or not. The challenge is their challenge. It does not belong to me. It does not belong to the teacher. It is their student's challenge. In that way, having said that, by flipping their role, I also flip my own role as a teacher. And why do I do that? because I do think that our role as teachers is to let our students be our champions. And I do think that the way to do that is showing confidence in their intelligence, showing confidence in their talent, motivate them, foster their creativity, and encourage them towards success. That is very selfish, and I will tell you why. In the end, if your students succeed, it is your success too. And obviously, as a teacher, you also want to succeed. So in the end, if you let your students be your champions and they win the championship, and that's the championship of learning, obviously, you also are successful, and that is good. Of course, that implies chaos, as I've said before, turning the school upside down sometimes. But that does not matter. If we are fostering autonomous learning, if we are connecting students with lifelong learning by means of projects, in my opinion, chaos doesn't really matter. But one has to be prepared for that. If you have a look at the next slide that you go on your screens, you have a stair. Each stair has several steps. So I will do an overview now about the steps that, from my viewpoint, one should take in order to flip your student's role. First, be ready for improvising. I think that's important. That's the real challenge for the teacher. I think. You never know what might happen or how the project is going to turn out, and the teacher has to be prepared for that. The teacher has to be prepared to let the students be the main characters and also to fail. Although you, as a teacher, may have every single activity very well set up in your mind, very well framed in your mind, when you face your students with a challenge, your students are bound to turn up your thoughts into different activities, into different outcomes. And that is not bad. I think that is good. That is fostering autonomous learning. That is fostering creativity, as I've said before, promoting competencies and autonomous learning. The first project that you carry out in this way might not turn out well at all. In fact, it might be failure. Maybe not even the second one, the third one, but that's why I do invite you to start with small projects. You do not have to accomplish a big full year project at the beginning, but it is worth the effort. Because on the other hand, if one does not make mistakes, if the students do not make mistakes, they are not bound to learn. One learns when one makes mistakes. So it is also important to reckon that the first project went completely failure, went to the bin. It doesn't matter. It is also good. So the step-by-step procedure that I carry out in my own project-based learning lessons, it consists of 5 steps. Approximately. Might vary depending on the groups each year. Step 1, and I will explain that in detail in the next slides, and I also hope to be able to share a screen with you so that you see some of the examples that might illustrate better what I mean. But step by step, step 1, facing students with a challenge, or facing students with several challenges and let them choose. Step 2, sending the students on what I call learning missions to guide them through overcoming the overall challenge. And I say guiding because I think that's the way we should flip our own role. And in that way, we will flip their own role too, and they will become aware of their own learning too. Step 3, providing students with guiding resources. Let's say ICT tools in order to be able to accomplish those learning missions we are sending them to. In that way, we are also integrating ICT in their learning missions, and turning ICT into an invisible part of the whole learning process. I think ICT should be as invisible in this process as a pen is nowadays, or as a piece of paper is. It's just another tool. It is there. We should take advantage of it, in my opinion, as much as we can, because ICT are here to stay. But exactly in the same way as pens have become part of our teaching for a whole um, art. Yeah, Shelley says that learning missions. One of you saying Shelley says that. Yes, I am very um, close fan of Shelley. Shelley talks about learning missions, and I've taken after her. I've learned a lot from Shelley, and I say hello to Shelley from here. I've just been talking to her some minutes ago, and she's a sample for us. She's an example, really. She's an. I do recommend that you all dive into Shelley's works, because she's an inspiration for us all. Then, apart, taken from the guiding resources, which is step 3, those guiding resources will help our students dive into step 4, which is producing what I call digitally connected outcomes. That's the products, right? The results of the learning missions must be creations, outcomes, artifacts. And of course, those artifacts, in my opinion, should be e-connected, should be digitally connected. And one way of connecting them is disseminating them. So dissemination is a key part in project-based learning, in my opinion. And of course, assessment, which is last but not least, and should actually be going through the whole process from step 1 to step 5 and so forth. So let's go to those steps into more detail, right? Step 1, the challenge scenario. When you face students with several challenges or one challenge, depending on where you want to start, you should face them with a challenge scenario, which might be real or might be fictitious. I do recommend that you go for real situations, because that connects learning with real life too. But if you are not able to make a real situation come to life, a fictitious one is okay too. It might become real somehow, somewhere in the future. It doesn't matter if it is a real scenario or not. I think it should have a triggering question, which is the actual question that poses the challenge, the kick-off question. Um, if you are ready for improvising and ready for chaos, you can face them with various options, various challenges. Let them choose. I think that's very good. It all depends on how well prepared you are to face chaos yourself, I think. Over the years, I have used several challenges, several challenge scenarios in different formats, different triggering questions, so as to kick the challenge off. I'm going to share screen with you now, because I have prepared for you some of those scenarios that are available in my classroom blog, where you can see some of those projects that you are already asking about in the chat. Feel free, when you see them, you read them later on. Feel free to use them if you think they might be valuable for you. Adapt them, reuse them. They are free for anybody who wants to use them. Let me just share my desktop with you. Let's see if it works. Yes. Tell me if you can see my screen. I hope you can see my screen. Yes. Okay. Perfectly. So in these posts in the blog, my classroom blog that Nair was showing you at the beginning, you have one post which is called App to the Challenge. These App to the Challenge post dives into slide share that I will open for you there. And in this slide share, you have several challenge scenarios here. If, for example, one of the challenge scenarios that I have used is bridge the generation gap. So what I do is I face them, for example, with this overview, and I tell them, let's say the school staff where you work are worried about their kids and teenagers, often feel that the older ones do not understand their troubles and that their parents and grandparents do not actually know what they are talking about. The challenge is to set up a committee of experts to establish a program and discover ways to show kids and teenagers that there is more to every generation that they might think. So the idea behind the challenge is that they work on generation gap. And the triggering question, the challenging question is, how can generations be brought together? So that's the idea behind the project. This does not mean that they have to literally follow the project as it is. It is only facing them up with a challenge and then let them improvise. I've got a whole collection there of different challenge scenarios and different triggering questions. So feel free if you think they can help you in any way. If you think this might be a bit overwhelming at the beginning for your first project, for instance, that having so many challenging scenarios and letting them choose might be too confusing, you can stick to one challenge scenario, for example, and its corresponding triggering question. I've already done that too, and that's not worse or better. It's just another way to face them with a challenge. For example, last year, when I started, I felt that my team of students might have been maybe too overwhelmed by too many. So I decided to write a story for them to face them with a challenge. And I wrote this story using Storybird, which was entitled, Where Have Our Textbooks Gone? So challenge scenario was that a tornado approached the school, spinning right into primary classes, and every single corner where the textbooks were was just wiped away. So no backpacks, no textbooks, no paper because of the tornado. So of course, the students were faced with a completely new learning, teaching scenario. Now what? How are we going to do? What are we going to do now? No textbooks. We will have to invent something. So all my students, from this story, this was the challenge, the triggering question. From this story, they decided to create their own material, to create their own digital ebooks, and in the end, they became aware that the tornado had actually turned them a favor because it was time for a change, um, forced by the situation, but they didn't have a problem. In the end, they had an opportunity. So they envisaged another kind of school with less fear for Fs and more hope for learning. And that was the triggering question. And then in the next step, they created those learning missions in order to overcome the overall challenge, which consisted of creating their own open educational resources. So that's another possibility, right? Now, the next step, which I'm going to stop sharing now. I will come back to the screen later, but I'd like to focus on the second step. We've got the challenge scenario, we've got the triggering question, but now we have to guide them. And this is when I take after Shelley and I send them on learning missions, okay? In order to overcome the challenge, we send them on learning missions that help them little by little. So um, the learning missions is not different to learning activities, learning experiences. But when you send them on learning missions, you are adding um, an element of gaming, right? Gamifying it somehow. And that encourages them, motivates them, okay? Of course, depending on the idea that there is behind each project, you as a teacher will have to design different and varied learning missions, which should be carefully planned. But do not forget that you have turned yourself into chaos at the beginning. And then, if you have organized chaos yourself, in order to guarantee that everything has sense, although apparently the learning missions might not be well organized, they must have to be very well thought and very well planned. So I am only going to give you a few tips because we haven't really got all that much time. But when I talk about learning missions, let's say, for example, the fact that they have to carry out the challenge in teams. If you send them on a learning mission, teaming up and distributing roles, deciding who's going to be the speaker for the project, deciding who's going to be the community manager, the investigator, the designer, the content curator, and so forth, that is a learning mission. And by accomplishing the learning mission, they are working um, lots and lots of competencies, and you are fostering autonomous learning, and you are fostering teamwork, and you are fostering collaboration. You can also send them on a learning mission in which they have to become avatars or cartoons and use those cartoons and avatars to introduce the projects that they are going to carry out to the world. Prototyping their project before actually building the project, they will have to prototype. Prototyping their project, for instance, by means of a mind map, by means of designing an infographic, um, creating an elevator pitch in order to sell their project to the rest of their peers or to the rest of the world. That's also a learning mission. That will allow them to find partners and connect with other peers inside the classroom, outside the classroom, and search for those e-connections that I mentioned at the beginning. That's a learning mission. Even searching for resources to implement in their project, curating, that's learning mission. When you carry out, they refuse to collaborate. Marisa is facing a nice question here. Refusing to collaborate, they might refuse to collaborate at the beginning. But if you talk them into learning missions, if you talk them into investigating and becoming detectives, if you talk them into helping the community to overcome a real life issue, it is not only that they will not refuse in the end, but they might become more motivated because they see the value of it and they see that it's worth it. They see that it's something real that they can touch, that it can become valuable for others. They also will realize that other students in other parts of the world are interested in their work, and they feel that their work is actually valuable, and that's important because they feel it as their own success. And of course, producing any kind of digital outcomes is also a learning mission. If you ask them, for example, to design tutorials for younger learners in other levels that are in need of help, if you try to connect them with their own families, for example, set up a project about connecting the generation gap that we were talking a minute ago, and send them on a learning mission in which they have to produce video clips or support tutorials for their own grandparents to, let's say, learn to use the internet. That is a learning mission, and that is part of an overall project. Like eTwinning is a perfect place, of course, when you want to collaborate with other peers in Europe, in the world. Ask them to create a comic, send them to produce first aid kits, send them on a learning mission to create podcasts, video clips, storytelling, augmented reality tours around their own quarters, for example. That's perfect as a learning mission. And of course, all that might be part of a blog, a portfolio, a web. That is the perfect digital showcase to share the project and to be proud of their own work. No, those who refuse do not fail. Of course not. And when I say fail, when I mentioned fail at the beginning, I didn't mean fail as in do not pass the subject, but when you fail is when you make a mistake and you learn from that mistake. Then going further on presenting the project, ask them to create that digital showcase. Ask them to participate in webinars. As this webinar we are taking part on, why not setting up their students on webinars, going live on YouTube, going live on any kind of video conferencing, international project. There are lots of international projects and also projects in your own country where video conferencing is part of it all, and you give your students visibility, you give their own projects a means to be disseminated, to be known by others, and of course that's connecting with the outer world. Try to connect with other alike collaborative projects, connect, exchange. That will enrich the project. Try to open your school doors to other schools and definitely plant the seed of collaboration, which is a very nice goal that can also be part of a learning mission. And do not forget that assessment can also be a learning mission. Design rubrics for peer evaluation, or send your students on the learning mission of designing their assessment rubrics to assess other peers' projects. Self-evaluation, self-reflection is another way of assessing. I think apart from scores, in which some of the participants might fail, as some of our attendees were saying, if you make them self-reflect, if you promote co-assessment, peer-to-peer assessment, yes, I do have students that refuse to collaborate, but in the end, they do collaborate because in the end, they are bound to be motivated by being part of it all. And actually, those who refuse to collaborate at the beginning are those who, in the end, feel more motivated. That is my experience. I'm not saying that, of course, it is an overall experience, but that is the experience that I have. And also, give credit for their achievements, because that's important when they feel that they are valued by us as teachers, and also when they feel that they are valued by other peers, they feel more motivated. So why not awarding badges? Exactly in the same way as we are awarded badges when we take part in a MOOC as this one. Why not having our own students to design the badges for other peers' projects, giving credit for their achievements? That is the beauty of it all in the end. And of course, this is not easy, okay? I'm not going to say that this is easy. But exactly in the same way as we are sending them on learning missions and facing them with a challenge and helping them to accomplish those learning missions and overcoming the challenge, we must guide their steps. I'm not saying teach, I'm saying guide. It is important, obviously, to guide their steps along the learning missions. We must help them to read and analyze the challenge scenario, maybe with a learning mission that consists of creating a mind map. We must help them to adequately define the challenge so they do not get lost. We must help them identify prior knowledge that they might have on the idea behind the challenge, help them identify unknown issues that they will have to obviously try and overcome, try and sort out, help them design a work plan, schedule the activities to tackle the challenge that you want them to overcome, that they have to overcome in the end, help them gather and organize information, help them analyze that information, filter, curate, help them develop activities, help them present, help them share the process, help them share the outcomes, help them with the digital tools, help them reflect on their own learning. Um, that's obviously part of our role as teachers, which is not easy sometimes. Um, Sorry. Step three are the guiding resources. Apart from the learning missions, guiding their steps, overcoming the challenge, and all these that we have been mentioned before, we have to provide them with the resources. We have to guide them regarding the resources that they must use. Otherwise, our students won't be able to accomplish the learning missions, right? Um, for me, guiding resources are a must. It is essential to provide them with the adequate resources for each learning mission. So for instance, let's say if you are sending them on the learning mission of creating a video clip, apart from guiding them through the steps, the creation of a storyboard, the recording of the clip, the edition of that clip, the actual publishing, you have to provide them with the actual digital tools, the actual resources to be able to write that storyboard first, then to be able to edit the video clip, record, produce, and publish. So that's where ICT tools come into it all. Um, and that's where ICT becomes the invisible part of the resources. For example, if you want them to create mind maps, you will have to provide them with the mind mapping tools. If you send them on curating content, you will have to provide them with the digital resources for citing and attributing. You will have to explain that. If you send them on the learning mission of creating a showcase, you will have to provide them with showcasing tools. For example, you will have to help them with blogging. If you are sending them on the learning mission of designing a logo type for their project, you will have to provide them with the tools for banner creation, image creation, and so forth. The same for designing a trailer for their project, for example. Of course, they will need the adequate tools for working with video, or if you are sending them on a podcasting mission, you will have to give them the audio streaming digital tools. I'd like to, regarding these, I'd like to share again my desktop with you, and I'd like to show you what I provide them with. For example, I have Pinterest, where I pin all kinds of digital resources, all kinds of digital tools. But I'd like to concentrate on focus on the Open CLIL Pinterest board because this is a collaborative board that my students this year have created when they were sent on the learning mission of curating a bank of common knowledge for CLIL E projects. So they curated themselves. I opened the Pinterest board, I invited them to collaborate, and they pinned lots of open educational resources for CLIL that they thought might be useful for other peers working on CLIL for primary and also for their own e-projects, they were creating at the time, actually. I also use Listly. I was sorry, I was trying to go for the Listly. Yeah, there you are. I also use Listly. Listly is also for curating contents themselves. You can open a list, and it's as easy as students following you or following your lists, and they can collaborate as well. They can contribute. So you can use Listly or with two goals actually, as a place for them to come and search for useful resources, useful tools, or also a place for them to contribute and add and become collaborative content curators. That depends on your actual goal. Um, but anyway, whatever you do, is also important that once you have the scenario, once you have the challenge, triggering question, once you have the steps, once you have the ICT tools, it is important that they produce something, they create something. I will stop now, so we can go to the next step in the project-based learning approach, which is creating digitally connected outcomes, digitally connected artifacts, because that's the result of each learning mission. And those digitally connected outcomes should be all focused on accomplishing the overall challenge that we faced them at the beginning of the scenario, if you remember. What I usually do is that I gather all their showcases. All my students create blogs or Wixes or Tumblrs or whatever they like in order to showcase all those outcomes, all those digital results, digital artifacts. And then I curate their showcases into web mixes or into lists or into simple lists where everybody can see all their peers' work. So, and that's part of the blog. Weebly, yeah, anything. I give them several options, and in their teams, they decide where they'd like to showcase their learning outcomes. If I can share again, I will show you um, some of the outcomes. For example, this blog roll was the showcase of my students from a couple of years ago. They created several digital projects. For example, this Heal the World with Stories was one project about storytelling, and one team actually created the whole blog so that to use storytelling and connect different cultures. They created nice podcasting stories. They created a story map so as to use it to teach storytelling to their own future students. They created virtual bookshelves in Pinterest too. But one of the most original um, digital artifacts that they came up with was these origami storytelling. Um, so this girl told their future student, her future students, an origami storytelling, um, and I'd like to play it. So just a bit of it, so that you get a glimpse of what I mean. See if you can hear it. So as you see, she is actually telling the story, and she is no sound. All right. Don't worry if you cannot hear it, because it's in the blog, and I'm going to give you the URL of the blog at the end, and it's part of a blog role where you can see the full showcase with everything, every digital artifact. Okay. As they were CLIL students, as they are always CLIL future teachers, they chose different subjects. So you've seen the Hill, the World with the Stories project, but there was also one about science. They call it Breaking Science after Breaking Bad. There was another one about arts and music. These arts and music in jars was quite imaginative, in my opinion, because they tried to provide other peers with small video clips about how to use ICT tools in order to produce arts and crafts works and music works, and that was quite interesting. Um, that was from 2014. Now, in 2015, the project was different. The challenge was different. The challenge, if you remember, came from the tornado scenario. No textbooks. What are we going to do? Let's create our own open educational digital materials. And here you have curated list with all the blogs and sites of the e-publications that the students design. So some of them created ebooks, open educational resources to teach art, to teach music, to teach history, to teach animals. Uh, some of them created materials for planets. It's always focusing CLIL because that's what they are teachers of. So, or that is what they are going to be teachers, CLIL teachers. Um, but you can check them whenever you like here. And this year, of course, we changed again. They were posted with different challenges. They were up to the challenges. And this year, they blended individual work with teamwork, and their showcases have been gathered in a web mix. But I'd like to share with you one of the, for me, most outstanding outcomes of 2016 portfolios, which was a video clip about history that they did completely at school with a chroma. But the chroma was built by themselves because we didn't have any means. So they came up with just a green piece of cloth that they used to cover a blackboard, a digital blackboard, and they created the whole video there, and then they edited with an video editing tool, uh, free, of course. So if you have a look at the video, I don't know if I play, you let me know if you can hear it. If you cannot hear it, I will give you the URL later on, and that will be it. But I think this is a good sample of the digital outcome that they might come up with poor means and learning mission activity. No audio. Okay, you cannot hear it. Don't worry. What is important is that if you see all these books and all that, of course this is all fake, right? The making of the making of the it's actually more fun to watch the making of than the video itself because this this was all carried out in a corridor at the university, right? Just in a corridor with a green piece of cloth and a digital black board that they covered. They covered the digital board with a green piece of cloth. They brought their own video cameras. Uh, some of them recorded with mobiles, and then with video editing tool. They created all the effects. They dressed up to illustrate different periods of history. As you see, they made the costumes. I couldn't believe my eyes. Actually, I was so proud. That day, I actually realized that they were my champions. That's why I'm posing this phrase at the beginning, because it is your students are bound to become your champions. But uh, some of the making ofs, they created some um, scenes because they were really having a very, very nice time. So they even created the making of, as you see here, black and white, and it was real fun. And that day, I realized that they didn't need me anymore, and that was good. When I realized that they didn't need me anymore, because I had actually achieved my goal too. I had autonomous learners. They didn't need me anymore. They were setting up the whole chroma when I arrived in class. Everybody was standing up. Everybody was dressing up that day, and that was real fun for me. And I couldn't say even hello. I was just standing there thinking, that's it. They are connecting. And that is the maybe the last part, as well as assessment. I always try to connect the students with other people in any other part of the world. I always talk them into participating in international online events, like this one, for example, um, or when my friend Shelley or my friend Dr. Nelly Dutch or my friends in the Choco Talks, which is a collaborative, Spanish collaborative project, when they organize some kind of live event, I always say, yes, yes, we are in. In that way, they connect with other people. It's always connect, connect, connect. I think that is important. And of course, evaluation. Um, it should be there from the beginning. When you have your learning goals clear, you have your evaluation criteria clear too. And you do not really have to focus only on one kind of assessment. You can foster peer-to-peer assessments with rubrics. You can use those same rubrics to assess the students yourselves. You can award those badges that we were talking about as a teacher, but you can also encourage your own students to create their own badges and give credit for their peers' achievements too. I use Credly usually, um, and P2PU. I will go back to share my desktop with you, so you have there. Right. I use Quick Rubric, which is a free online rubric creation tool. You can create the rubric online. You can download it as a printable document. Um, you can even upload it to an online hard drive, such as Google Drive or Dropbox, so that the students have it in advance. That is essential for me. I think students have a right to know how they are going to be assessed, because by knowing beforehand the assessment criteria, they also know what is expected from them, and they also have clearer learning goals. So that's why I usually, whenever I send them on a learning mission, I give them the rubric in advance. Or if I am using an online learning management system such as Moodle, for example, I use online rubric. But that same rubric that I design for my assessment of their work as a teacher, I also tell them, okay, now create your own rubric to assess your peers and contrast it as well with your own work. So use it to self-assess yourselves. So you can also see the balance. You can also see uh, if there is a lot of gap between their self-evaluation, my assessment, peer-to-peer assessment. So you can mix all kinds of assessments like that. So creating online quick rubric is one possibility. Um, if you ask them to create portfolios for showcasing their work, um, promoting self-reflection, using those portfolios as learning diaries is another way to assess people. And as I was telling you before, um, badges. Credly give credit for achievements, is a very nice way to reckon people's work, um, make them feel that they are um, worth it, that their effort is worth it, that they are valued, not only by you as a teacher, but by those peers with the same interests. And also, I use um, P2PU badges because you can build your own learning community with badges. And they are open badges. They are all um, transferable to Mozilla open badges. You can export your Credly badges to your own Mozilla backpack. No issues with that. This P2PU community is quite interesting because you can create badges and award badges to projects. So you can students can upload their own projects there, and other peers can award badges to those projects depending on the criteria. So I think that's quite nice, and quite full picture. It gives you quite a full picture of project-based learning from the beginning and assessment of projects. So it's all quite connected. And last but not least, another way to assess the success of your students is, as I was telling you, being part of a larger community. As some of you were posing eTwinning. Of course, eTwinning is maybe one of the largest communities of connected teachers in Europe, in the world. And apart from e-twinning, there are other communities and other ways to connect. I've got a section in my blog which I call Proud to be part of a wide range of collaborative projects worldwide. And uh, among those, you have all the collaborative projects worldwide in which I am part of, or I have talked my students into being part of, or I have collaborated or even funded some of them. But I think it is important because when you feel part of a larger community, you realize about the importance of being a connected teacher. I think it is important nowadays. I think it is important to be a connected teacher. Um, and Professional networks of inspiring educators are out there for you and are ready to work in collaboration, share their ideas, share their findings. They're willing to innovate together. Sometimes you actually feel closer to a community of online teachers than to your own next door neighbor teacher. I Unfortunately or not, that's what it is. But if you are not a connected teacher, you will never be able to foster that sense of global citizenship that I think we should encourage our students to be. Um, and if I think that's all from my side, we've gone well over the hour now. So if you have any questions, it's time to ask them. And if you want to have any more tips or questions or anything, I'm always available at Twitter, and I'm always available at the Classroom blog. I will give you now the URL. So if you want to contact me there, that's no issue. I'll be ready to answer any questions. I've got even a voicemail, so you can send me your message, leave me your message. It's a digital machine, and I will answer without any issues at all. But if you have any questions now, I'm ready for you. I've got some of the questions that you placed for me in the Padlet yesterday. I think some of them we've already answered, but if there is anybody who wants to raise your hand, um, I'm all ears. Glad that you have loved the presentation.
Maria Jesus, can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly all right.
Okay, sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to say thank you. It has been really, really amazing. And I think that we are on time, but I'm sure the teachers won't mind. I don't mind it either because it has been really interesting and motivating. And of course, we have been discussing the questions, but since Maria Jesus, since you're here, you can answer them now. You can post them in the chat, or feel free to do whatever you think it's more suitable. You can also raise your hand and maybe speak if you have some more time.
It's been my pleasure, actually. I know that I've gone well over the hour. Sorry,
But it's
I
okay,
talked too
really,
much.
really, really. But it has been really inspiring, and not only for me, then since I'm not a teacher anymore, but I'm sure that it will be really inspiring for them as well.
When one is a teacher, Nair, one never stops being a
Yeah,
teacher.
yes, indeed. So I'm gonna have I have some questions here, so I'm just gonna ask some of them, and if there's anything else in the chat, you feel free to answer as well. So I think one of the most interesting questions what
It,
yeah, go.
somebody is asking for the resources
Yeah,
and the
okay.
lists. yeah, they are here. They are all here in the blog. If you go to Stop and Learn English, you have links there to all the lists. Anyway, I will also be publishing the support presentation with a summary of the transcription, and Nair is also publishing the video. So don't worry, everything will be here at the Classroom blog and at the Teacher Academy too.
Okay, great.
Most important resources to be a connected teacher, Maite is asking. Uh, there are no resources more important than others, I think. Uh, the important thing to be a connected teacher, in my opinion, is wanting to be connected. Attitude is the most
Everything.
important part of it all.
Okay, so I will go for next question. It came from Padlet. I don't remember the person because there were really a lot of questions there. So we try somehow to make like a summary of the most important ones. And it was how to implement project-based learning in a school system with a strict programs and taking into account all the content that I have to teach.
Make the content part of the project. That's
Okay.
that's it. I mean, I mean, for me, the content is not that important. I mean, of course, we have to teach content, but content is on the internet already. You Google content, and everything is there for you. So our role as teachers might be more focused to teaching them how to search properly, having a critical eye, being able to filter, digital identity, digital competencies. I think our role nowadays as teachers is more into teaching them how to find that content efficiently rather than teaching the content itself. But if you teach them how to look for it, that's learning by doing, and the content is part of the project itself.
Okay, great.
But somebody was, sorry to interrupt,
Yeah.
somebody was asking me if I'm part of eTwinning, if I am on eTwinning. I work next door to eTwinning Spain. So yeah, I guess I am I am on eTwinning, yeah.
Good.
I guess so.
Yeah. I work here too, so if you have any questions, so feel free to ask Maria Jesus or anybody here in European School, and we will be glad to answer you. So next question, which I found really interesting, is how to implement project-based learning when there are limitations, any kind of limitations. For instance, only one PC per class, or a lot of students in the class, or no help from parents as well, it was mentioned.
Well, I will start from the end. Parents. At the beginning, they might be a drawback, I'm sure. But if you talk to them about the benefits of project-based learning, and especially if you show them the results and you see how they see how motivated their sons and daughters might become, and they feel the change of attitude, because project-based learning sometimes makes a full change of attitude in some students. When they realize about that, and if you make them part of it, if you bring parents into the project as well, parents are part of school, so a school project must involve parents. If you involve them into project-based learning, if you make them part of it, parents will stop being a drawback. Then there is something else. Internet connection, connectivity, ICT tools, devices, one PC per computer. I mean, a project-based learning doesn't necessarily have to involve ICT. ICT is another tool, but you can carry out project-based learning with crayons, highlighters, and pieces of paper and post-its, and it is perfectly okay. Too many students, there are never too many students. Team them up, foster teams, foster collaborative work, and let them stand up, let them talk. Uh, Project-based learning involves chaos, as I said at the beginning, and that involves the students talking, and that involves the students discussing, debating, making their own choices, and that is noise. But that's positive noise, after all.
Definitely. Yep. There is Barbara is asking in the chat. I guess it's project-based learning is implemented in the curriculum.
Why not? I mean, we shouldn't see project-based learning as a single, separate part of the syllabus at all. The syllabus is there, and it is there to stay. How you approach the syllabus is up to you as a teacher. Of course, the syllabus must be covered, but when covering a syllabus doesn't imply that you have to go to class and say page 1, exercise 3. You can cover the syllabus in the same way, approaching project-based lessons. Even better, I'd say.
Yes.
Freedom
Okay.
in Spain. Freedom for what? For doing what we can, Barbara. Um, uh, well, I mean, um, there is freedom, of course. I think there is not enough freedom if you are talking about school management. Um, but of course, teachers, we have to abide with the syllabus too. We have to abide with rules, uh, but that's not going to be an obstacle. We can do both things at the same time. They are not excluding each other, I think.
Okay. I've got another question from the Padlet. What do you think about using project-based learning in primary school? How can teachers
Okay.
introduce it, and which subject is more suitable?
Primary students are the best students to carry out projects, I think. It's easier to approach project-based learning with primary students because uh, they are in the best age for learning by doing. I think it is more difficult to put into practice project-based lessons when your students are adults or teenagers, especially if they haven't been used to tackling projects in younger ages. They are used to traditional ways, so changing their minds is more difficult. However, primary kids, if you take them out on school tours and let them have their mobile devices and scan QR codes, for example, on a school day trip. That's going to be more motivating than having them sitting down, listening to how nice flowers grow in the field. If the field is out there, take them to the field and let them touch the flowers. Do not tell them in class, for example.
Very good. And can project-based learning be combined with different topics? Since for
No.
instance math, that's what the specific question.
Actually, it should be combined with different subjects. And if you're lucky enough to have more crazy project-based teachers in your school, uh, better. The more coordinated the subjects are, the better. If you have more teachers like you, drag them along. And if you haven't, open the school doors and connect with other teachers somewhere. You're not alone. You might feel lonely, but you're not alone in the adventure at all. Lots and lots of teachers out there, lots and lots of virtual communities out there willing to share and willing to be part of it.
Okay, great. And there is another question which I found really interesting from Margarita Bato. And she would like to know if how they can have a project-based learning platform organized by subjects, or where they can share project-based learning ideas and plans, if you know how this could be implemented.
Any online site is good for project-based learning, from a simple blog to a learning management system like Moodle. to organizing a hangout, uh, for example, to meet with other teachers and regularly and organize the project and schedule the learning missions and share guiding resources. Any online free tool is good. You've got European Schoolnet, which is perfect for you to connect. You've got eTwinning, which is perfect for you to carry out connected school projects. But you've got Google Hangouts too, where you can meet and see each other. You've got WizIQ, where you can set learning communities too, or simply Google Drive. Google Drive is perfect. You can also collaborate real time, create connected documents real time, slides real time, and it's free,
Okay,
which is
great.
most important.
And Amelia de Chiara from Italy was also asking how they can organize their learning space and which tools can they use so as to flip their students' role.
Um, Screencasting is great for you to start flipping. Um, to flip your students' role, all the tools that and all the tips that I've given you throughout the webinar should go. Um, try. Try with the small things, small projects. Try. Uh, the Pinterest board that I shared with you some minutes ago has lots of tools for flipping. The blog has lots of tools for flipping too. Um, what we call playpens, like sandboxes where you can go and play and try out new tools. History is a great place to find tools. Um, Pinterest, Symbaloo, there are lots and lots and lots of tools. Just try. The tool is not important, okay? What is important is that you have clear learning goals, that you have clear assessment criteria, that you have clear digital artifacts, digital outcomes, and then you can choose any tool because there are so many tools. That's the least of your worries.
Okay, great. And Giancarlo from Italy is also asking if you could think or rely on an official international repository for our other project-based learning projects in the future. Is there any international repository that we can trust?
You can go to Comun.
Oh,
Procommun is the Ministry of Education. I will write it here for you.
great, thanks.
Oh, sorry. There you are. Um, this is the Spanish Ministry of Education, bank of open educational resources, and there you can also open your own communities. You can decide if you want them private, if you want them public, if you want them mixed, and in those communities you can share resources, you can debate, you can have chats, you can even live stream video. Um, so it's like a Facebook group, but safe, because obviously it's got the support of the Ministry of Education.
Okay,
But
great, thank
it's
you.
international, of course, yeah.
Okay, so let's see if there are any questions, any last question in the chat, so we can start finishing the webinar. I would like to mention, but because there was somebody that posed a question in the Padlet, and they were asking if they could use the material from the course. Yes, you can, but don't forget to always mention the original source, which is
Cite,
really
cite
important.
and attribute. Always cite and attribute, please.
That's it. That's it. Okay, so I'll just wait a few more seconds to see if there are more questions.
I don't know if I've got, okay.
Okay, I just got the Procommun link now. I don't know about the participants, but it's there, so it's fine.
I've just written it on the
Yeah, I saw it.
whiteboard, so it's going to stay there.
Okay. So I think that if there are no more questions, we can finish here. It's the time. So thank you, Maria Jesus. It has
My
been
pleasure.
really interesting and amazing, and not only for me, but also from them. I'm completely sure. And I would also like to say that apart from all the things that we have been discussing here today, there has been a lot of messages posted on the Padlet and social media channels thanking the Teacher Academy for the course. They have enjoyed a lot, so we are very happy for this. And I would like to say also on behalf of the Teacher Academy team that we are the ones who need to thank you instead, since these courses are only as good as the participants, meaning you. So huge thank you to all of you who have worked really a lot in this course. You have been really active, working together, collaborating together, which was a very important thing with previous learning that Maria Jesus was mentioning before. And it has been really great to see so many teachers working together. So, Maria Jesus, thank you again. I have no words
You're
to
you're most welcome. My pleasure. It's been my pleasure spending the afternoon with you here, and I just hope you've enjoyed. And whatever you need, you've got the blog there, and you've got my Twitter handle. I'm always available to help.
Great. Thank you very much, Maria Jesus. And thank you again to all the participants that joined us today instead of going to the beach. We really appreciate that. And we wish you all a very good summer. I saw a comment yesterday in Twitter from Elena from Italy mentioning that you will now have the whole summer ahead to plan the new school year and the project-based learning activities, so please
That's
do
right.
so. Challenge yourself and also challenge your students and give it a try and start a new project next year. And do also rest a lot. You clearly deserve it. And charge your batteries. And see you again in September. There will be more courses running in the Teacher Academy and also in the European Student Academy. So thanks a lot to everybody and have a nice evening. Thank you,
Enjoy.
Maria Jesus, again.
You're
Thanks.
most welcome. Enjoy your
We
evening
really
and enjoy
appreciate it.
the summer.
Thank you,
Bye
you too.
now.
Bye,
Bye.
everybody. Bye.
Bye.